Welcome to this week's lesson. Our topic this week is food production and storage. Our learning objectives are that at the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe factors affecting food production. You should also be able to state ways of improving crop yield. You should be able to state causes of food wastage. And you should be able to enumerate ways by which government is contributing towards self-sufficiency in food production. And you should be able to describe the methods for food preservation and storage. Factors affecting food production. What are the factors that are affecting food production? These factors that are affecting food production are grouped into three: climatic factors, edaphic factors, and biotic factors. First of all, we'll be looking at the climatic factors affecting food production. Rainfall. Rainfall is a climatic factor that is necessary for seed germination. Excessive rainfall will always lead to soil erosion. It will lead to leaching, whereby soil nutrients will be washed away. Insufficient rainfall also will cause crop failure and poor yield. You see that crops, they need rainfall for them to survive. But if it's in excess, it will result to leaching, whereby soil nutrients will be washed away. We have temperature. Temperature is another climatic factor that is necessary for seed germination, because different seed needs optimum temperature for them to germinate. Instead, they will enter into dormancy. So temperature is necessary for seed germination. Even during photosynthesis, temperature is also needed. Opening and closing of the stomata, temperature is needed. So in the absence of temperature, crop production or food production will be affected. We have wind. Wind, air in motion, is a climatic factor that is necessary. It aids in pollination. Not only in pollination, when you talk about seed dispersal, fruit dispersal, wind is a major factor there. So it aids in the spread of or dispersal of these fruits and seeds, so that they can be able to germinate in different locations. Now, apart from this, you can also understand that wind helps us also to disperse diseases from one crop to the other. During this time, wind will be able to transfer these diseases from one plant to the other, thereby causing the rapid spread of diseases in the farm. So it's another factor that affects food production. We have sunlight. Sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis, because remember that photosynthesis occurs in the presence of solar energy, which is the sunlight. So plants need this energy for them to convert or manufacture their own food. In the absence of sunlight also, evaporation will not happen, because evaporation occurs in the presence of sunlight, whereby plants will be able to maintain their internal environment, the amount of water they have in their system. So the amount of sunlight also regulates or affects food production. We have relative humidity. Relative humidity is another factor that affects food production, which is the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. So if we have high relative humidity, it favors mostly the growth of diseases. So these pathogens will be, their fecundity rate will increase. But if we have low relative humidity, it causes dryness. So during this time, you see that there will always be high rate of transpiration from crop plants. When we have low relative humidity, rate of transpiration will be high. It will be maximized. The biotic factors that affect food production, we have soil organisms. Some soil organisms, just like fungi, bacteria, they help in the aeration of the soil. When you talk about the earthworm, they feed on dead organisms, decomposers. They feed on dead organisms, thereby breaking down these dead bodies into organic matter that will add nutrient to the soil. So you see that termite, earthworm, they also aid in aeration of the soil too. And apart from that, they increase fertility of the soil. They brings about percolocation. And also in the decomposition of plant minerals, they add minerals to the soil. Nitrogen that is being needed, they help to provide that. Now pests, when we talk about pests, you see that pests, they cause a lot of damages to crops. We have example rodents, birds, insects, even some mammals. You see that they cause a lot of damages. They reduce the quality of crops. So you can even see that some pests serves as a vector of some diseases. So when they have found in the food production, you see that they always be creating adverse effect in food production, thereby affecting the rate of food production. We have parasites. A parasite like tapeworm, they transmit diseases, and this may cause the death of plants and even farm animals. So they help to transmit diseases that will result to this harmful effect in farm animals and crops. We have weed. The weed, the unwanted plants that always compete for nutrients, that always reduce the spaces that crops need for them to grow well, affect food production. When unwanted plants are found in the farm, they will always cause poor growth of the original plants that are planted there. So you see that these things, they affect food production. The edaphic factors affecting food production. Edaphic factors affecting food production. The first one is soil pH. Soil pH is the degree of acidity or alkalinity of the soil. The soil pH always affects the availability of soil nutrients to plants, because different organisms, different plants, they do well, they grow well in a certain pH level. So the availability of soil nutrients to plants, the rate in which plants can be able to absorb nutrients, is being determined by the soil pH. We have the soil texture. The soil texture determines the level of soil fertility based on both leaching and erosion. The soil texture determines the amount in which leaching or erosion will occur. So the soil texture affects food production. We have soil structure. The soil structure here, you'll be looking at to what level can this type of soil retain water. Water retaining capacity of the soil is being determined by the soil structure. You can see that the level in which the soil retains water determines the aeration capacity and also the percolocation of the soil. How porous the soil is. Can the soil really retain some amount of water? Can it retain high amount of water? Can it retain moderate amount of water? So if the soil has a low water retaining capacity, it's going to affect the food production. Ways that we can use to improve crop yield. The first one is the use of crop varieties. We have crops that have early maturity. Or if you introduce crop that has this trait or this variety that they can mature early, they produce early maturity. When you have some example, we have palm trees. Palm trees that at the age of 3 years, they will start bearing fruits. Crossbreed these plants, introduce them so that you can have an improved yield. So instead of you planting a crop that will stay 10, 20 years before you start bearing fruit, we have crops that have improved varieties that you can introduce. We have crops that have varieties of resistance to diseases, that if you introduce them, they always have resistance to some certain diseases. They can be affected. So if you introduce such crops, you will have an improved crop yield. We have crops that have resistance, or that it's always difficult for them, or they're always suitable for a particular environmental conditions. They have various environmental conditions that they can adapt to. Introducing such crop will improve your yield. If you have crops that can withstand high temperature, you have crops that can withstand low amount of rainfall, this crop will always increase the level of yield that you have in your farm. We have increasing soil fertility. We can increase soil fertility either artificial way or using compost manure, either farmyard manure, or we can apply fertilizers, thereby increasing soil fertility so that we can have an improved crop yield. We have selecting and applying correctly fungicide, pesticide, herbicide to control fungi, pests, weeds, and diseases. Because we know that these fungi, pests, weeds, and diseases, they are organisms, they are biotic factors that affect crop production. So if we can be able to apply these chemicals in order to inhibit their growth, we can be able to have an improved crop yield. Proper timing of planting. Different crops grow in different seasons. There are crops that they need high amount of rainfall for them to survive. There are crops that need low amount of rainfall for them to do well. So you having a proper timing of planting, either if it's during rainy season or during the time that we have moderate rainfall, will determine the amount of yield you will obtain, because plants or crops are specific based on the time that they do well. We have adoption of better cultivation method. Here you can adopt better cultivation method that can work for you. Maybe the method that can increase nutrient-rich soil. You can apply method that will avoid soil erosion, that will prevent erosion. You can even adopt method that will bring or that will reduce pest or weed outbreak. So all this method, adoption of this better cultivation method, will help to improve your crop yield. What are the ways or the causes of wastage? The causes of wastage include late harvesting. If you harvest your crops lately, it will always brings about food wastage, because many of them will start decaying in the soil, bringing about food wastage. We have wastages caused by pests and diseases. Pests and diseases, they cause a lot of wastage or damages in the farm. We have inadequate efficient storage facilities. Many people, they can farm in a large way, but they don't have efficient storage facilities. Thereby, you will see a lot of their crops, a lot of their farm produce being damaged as a result of inefficient storage facilities. We have inadequate transport facilities. Some people, the transport facilities that they can use in order to move or transport their farm produce through and fro the state or the country, always bring about a lot of food wastage. Here you will see that they cannot even reach out to the market or large market where they can sell their goods and services. We have inadequate processing facilities. It causes food wastage. When some of these things that are perishable, if they are not processed, you see that they will be wasted, thereby resulting to food wastage. Natural disasters like flood and drought also causes food wastage, where we also have bad harvesting techniques. There are some people, they don't even know how to harvest some certain crops, thereby using bad equipment, using bad timing of harvesting. All these things brings about food wastage. We have bush burning. Bush burning is another way in which food wastage is being maximized. If we avoid bush burning, because during this time some crops and some crop yield are being burnt, thereby resulting about food wastage. Minimizing the rate of bush burning also will reduce the rate of food wastage. We have incomplete harvesting. Incomplete harvesting, whereby some crops of some farm produce will be left in the soil. They won't be harvested completely. Thereby, some of them will be left for either some pests or some rodents to feed on them. Some of them will even decay, thereby bringing about incomplete harvesting. When harvesting is not complete, maybe as a result of technical know-how, or as a result of inadequate labor or inadequate harvesting facilities, this thing will always bring about food wastage. Ways by which the government is contributing towards self-sufficiency in food production. Nigeria as a government, they have really tried in various ways to enhance food production. Through like you will see some establishments that they have tried in order to enhance food production, like Operation Feed the Nation (OFN). Even we have Green Revolution and Directorate of Food. We have road and rural infrastructure that will always bring about good road for farmers to transport their foods. We still have some other agencies that have been instituted in order to enhance food production. We have National Agricultural Land and Development Authority, NAUDA, that was established, and its responsibility then was to bring about clearing lands for large-scale farming, so that any empty land can be used or utilized for farming purposes. So, what are the things that the government needs to provide for us to have a self-sufficiency in food production? The first one, we're looking at improved seeds or seedling varieties to farmers. Provide it for farmers so that they can have improved seed or seedling varieties. Or we can look at provision of fertilizers at subsidized rates so that soil fertility can be improved. We have herbicide, provision of herbicide, fungicide, and pesticide, so that these weeds, these fungi, these pesticide or pests can be controlled. Provision of storage facilities. Providing storage facilities also will help to improve food production. We have provision of loan facilities to farmers, especially those that are indulging into larger scale production. We have irrigation services to areas of inadequate rainfall. Providing an irrigation service to areas that have low or inadequate rainfall will be a good method in which the government will contribute towards self-sufficiency in food production. Provision of markets for buying of agricultural products. So if markets can be created so that buying and selling of agricultural products can be maximized. Genetically improved animals to farmers. Provision of animals that have improved varieties. Animals that have genetically improved varieties will be a good thing for the government to provide for farmers, so that these things or crop yield can be maximized. Heavy equipment for mechanized farming. Yes, farmers, they need equipment that will help them to indulge into large scale production. So this heavy equipment like tractors, bulldozers, they are needed for farmers to use them to indulge into large scale production. We have research facilities for better understanding of farming processes. One of the problems of farmers today is technical know-how. So if the government can provide a research facilities for farmers to understand better the processes, the techniques that are involved in farming, it will be a very good method in which farmers can be able to increase in the rate or sufficiency of food production. Okay, our last subtopic will be method of preserving and storing food. What are the methods that we can use or we can apply to preserve and store food? The first one, we have salting. Salting is done in a way that you dust farm products like meat, fish, or grounded pepper, vegetable. You dust them with salt. What's the principle behind this? Remember that when we did osmosis, remember that osmotic pressure is always based that a bacteria cannot live, it cannot survive in a highly concentrated salt solution. So the water is drawn out of these farm products. Water is being drawn out of them. So thereby resulting dehydration. So if the food dehydrates as well, it increases the osmotic concentration of the food, which kills spoilage organisms. Because bacteria, they cannot survive in a highly concentrated salt solution, because it will always bring about dehydration. So when salt are applied, water will be released out from those farm products, and as well as the bacteria itself cannot survive in an environment where there is no water. So that is the principle behind salting. It's a good method by which you can preserve meat, fish, and other related products. Smoking is a way in which you dry some farm products like fish, meat, groundnut, maize, okra, tobacco, you dry them over a naked fire. Either you introduce them over the smoke of a naked fire, whereby this smoke will keep on embedding on them. It will generate high temperature, which will suffocate or kill microorganisms. So as well, not just killing microorganisms alone, it will also bring about the prevention of the entry of new microorganisms. Because when the environment is not suitable for those that are there already, when the microorganisms that are there are dying, new ones will not be able to enter because the environment is not convenient for them. So it causes dehydration too, thereby increasing the osmotic pressure. When osmotic pressure is increased, it will bring about the death of this microorganism. The third one is freezing or refrigeration. Here it involves the use of cold storage facility, like the refrigerator. You use them in order to preserve your food. If you use refrigerator or a deep freezer to store food like meat, fish, vegetables, you can see that these products that you put into the refrigerator, it will provide a low temperature within the food. We slow down. Remember, there is no organism that survives in low amounts of temperature. It slows down biological processes. So thereby, if any spoilage organism is in that food, the freezing will inactivate them. It will reduce their biological processes. They will be inactive. So this is a good method by which some farm products can be stored. Fruits, meats, fish. These are some of the farm products and other ones that we do store in the freezer. We have other methods of preserving and storing food. Example, we have drying and sunning, or we have chemical method, we have irradiation, we have canning, we have pasteurization. You see these 4 methods. Go through your assignment, you will see them. It's part of your assignment that you will describe the principles that are involved in preservation and storing food using these techniques: drying, chemicals, radiation, canning, and pasteurization. You will do it because it's part of your assignment. Just explain briefly how these methods are used, how the principle behind this method of food preservation. Till next week, where we'll be looking at a wonderful topic, which is microorganism in action. Till then, do your assignment and submit before deadline. Thank you.